And I love how you call him
I
Anthony, like you guys are like close personal friends. Like Anthony bought 5 million shares. Like what? It's Mr. Noto, mofo.
Next thing he's going to start calling him
not a
T-Bone.
chance.
Yeah, Tony.
Tony just purchased some shares. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to SoFi Weekly. I'm here with Tannor, Tevis, and Dividend Streams, also known as Steven. He is back on the pod with us this weekend. Noto, our boy, our guy, has not bought since June. He was doing really small little 12, 13, 14, 15,000 purchases. Nothing extravagant, but it made people excited as he was DCing from 9 to 6. Then he just stopped, and then he started purchasing at $4.30.
Anybody who takes his on anything but bullish is crazy. You want your directors and your senior leadership to purchase shares. It's very bullish. The guy increased his shares by 29% or so. Sure, Tanner has a chart on everything. You look at how many shares he's purchased. This guy has put over $8.8 million of his own capital into the stock. Very happy about it. But you know what? Just because he's buying doesn't mean it's going to go up. So everybody should remember that.
Yeah, so I do have a chart for that, and I want to show it off. Yeah, I saw someone on Seeking Alpha, but he said something along the lines which I thought was great, which there's countless reasons to sell a stock if you're an insider. Plenty of different ways. It's really hard to read into that, but there's only one reason to buy is because you believe that that stock's going to go up into the future. These are all of his purchases. Whenever you're looking at March and in May there, obviously those weren't one-time purchases. I just conglomerated them for the single image. And then he was doing constant buys in June, and then we didn't see anything for 6 months. And now we're seeing massive purchases in a couple of days, purchases that were bigger than single months that he's been purchasing.
Before you go on, can we just have a public thank you to Greta Traderberg for just triggering Noto hard enough that he just starts buying again?
Well, let's not forget,
Yeah.
he got a pretty nice payout from Twitter.
Are we sure that he sold? Because there was the option that Elon Musk said where you could roll over, the shares into the private side of Twitter. And then I also don't know if there is a partial sale that's allowed. Maybe you can sell half, roll half over, because if that's the case, he was holding on to 124 million. But as you can see, Noto is quite the dollar cost averager. He will buy over a long period of time. So it's not uncommon for us to see him buy 3 times in 4 days. What's going to happen for the next month or next couple of months as we go into the next quarter, while this whole student loan debacle is in, making our stock really cheap? He could be continuously buying if he does have access to $100 and something million. If it was a partial sale, maybe he put it all in right now, or this was maybe from something else. I don't know his personal life. I don't know about his other investments. He's definitely made a buttload of cash during his Goldman Sachs days and everything like this. This is Noto's total value, 23.6 million. That's as of today's price on the stock. That's not just all the stock that he's purchased today. That's all together. That's all the shares that he has under his name. How much he bought recently, that's in bold, is 5 million. And like Steven said, it was an increase of 28%, almost 29% of his total holdings.
If you just look at 2022, he's made 18 purchases in 2022 alone. 1.61 million shares he's purchased in 2022. He spent 8.3 million.
Think about your portfolios, guys. One day increasing 29% of your holding, like that. That's a huge buy. Just relative to that total sizing. That's the part that I found super interesting, is that he was buying pretty much like every week from the beginning of the year all the way until June. The velocity with which he bought this many shares in just 3 days or 4 days, he increased it by almost 30%. That was something really interesting.
I feel like it definitely shows that he probably did get a lump of cash because of the Twitter deal, because he didn't make a single purchase in 6 months. But maybe he was also waiting for clarity on what's going to happen with student loans, or maybe he just saw a great opportunity at such a low price. We're looking at below book value, extremely close to tangible book value, wants a good deal. I don't think there has to be a big catalyst,
I think shares at 973. He purchased shares at 785, at 650. He's purchased shares the whole way down. Under $5, you would think that he took the opportunity to dollar cost average even further into it. And I don't know the guy, but you got to think that he's not going to put that type of capital to work if he really doesn't believe that the share price is going to turn. I mean, he didn't get to the point he's at by making critical decisions incorrectly.
I also found the timing interesting, in particular to what's been going on with SoFi with regards to the options release. The Form 4 came out, I think, on Tuesday after the market closed, and then the next day, Buy Now, Pay Later or Pay in 4 was released. I was thinking about whether there is some type of MNPI implications here. I mean, I know he's buying on the open market, but there is a lot of launches that SoFi has been really looking forward to. And I found it funny. Just Form 4s came out. He bought a couple of days before the Pay in 4 comes out for the end of the year. So
I think, honestly, I think they're such tiny products. I think Galileo's product is big. I don't know if SoFi's Pay in 4 product will be nearly as big. I think there's a lot of products that get launched on SoFi that get no coverage at all. I'm pretty sure SoFi, they started doing same-day personal loan funding. That is massive. For our biggest product to get twice the speed on the availability to capital, like that's going to lead a lot of new growth. And that happened this quarter. And who knows? It could have been that. It could have seen a large amount of increases because maybe they're seeing great personal loan growth, which I'm sure is the case.
Do we think there's still a chance of a reverse split? Because obviously, if a reverse split were to happen, we would drop another 20%. That just happens across the board, even though it doesn't really affect the fundamentals of the company. So Noto would be kind of dumb, right, for buying at $4 when theoretically the price would go down to, let's say, $30 if we have a 10-for-1 reverse split and it goes down $10 from 40 to 30. So do you think that he's very confident that there's just not going to be a need for that, and that's why he purchased now? Because it's a big buy.
I think they're two separate things. Like, it's a board decision, number one, and then Noto has been buying at like $9, $10, $7, $8, $4, $5, $6. Like, he's just DCAing, and I don't think that he's going to be playing the game theory in his head to say, oh, well, the psychology of reverse splits. I mean, I don't think that's a factor in the slightest.
But it's not game theory. It's if there's a reverse split, the stock will tank. That's going to happen.
Can we all agree that Noto's not buying for the short term? He's not buying to sell in 2 weeks from now? Or
yes, but if there's a reverse split, he could get his shares at $3 versus $4, which is substantially different.
If we can agree that he's not buying for the short term, a reverse split doesn't matter, because maybe it goes down after reverse split, maybe it doesn't. Okay.
No, it is. No, Steven, it is. There's no way. You think this market's not going to tank at 20% after a reverse split?
Maybe it will. We'll see after it happens, if it happens. But at the end of the day, it changes nothing.
Like if SoFi declines naturally down to $2-3 over the next couple months, it's whatever. But if you do a RS, it's gonna happen. And if he knows there's an RS, why would he buy his shares for $1, $2 above what it could be in the next 2 months?
But he also
it just makes you think.
But he doesn't know where the share price is going to be next week or the week after,
Right.
And he doesn't know where it's going to be after the next quarter's earnings. Q4 earnings are going to be probably February 1st or so. Reverse split, if it happens, it can happen in the spring. They have until July to do it. When they authorized it, it was authorized for a year. So whenever that shareholder vote was, it was June or July. Do I want it to happen? No. In a perfect world, I'd rather endure 3 years of pain and have them start generating earnings and start buying back shares down the road instead of doing a reverse split. I'm in this for the long haul. So I'll take single digit prices for years and years to come out the other side. I don't care.
The Fed could come out and smoke the market, and then they might be forced into a reverse split. He can't predict the future, even with the reverse split that he controls.
Everybody has to be ready for this to go down. This could go to $3. I didn't think it was going under 10, and it did. Look, this can go further. I think everybody just has to take it in strides and don't invest if you don't believe in the company. It's as simple as that.
I found the duality of this week really interesting, where Elon was like selling a huge chunk and then Noto comes in and buys a huge chunk. I don't know. I just found it really interesting since they happened like a day apart from each other. And it was just like that much more reinforcing of all of these CEOs who are like, you know, you sell for a lot of reasons. You only buy for one reason, right? Just to echo what you said earlier. I think that like Noto buying, especially that big amount, that far in between with a 6 month sort of hiatus, was such a strong reassurance to all the SoFi bulls. It sent a very clear message, at least that's how I interpreted it, especially because it was on the same week that Elon sold when he said he wasn't going to sell and all that.
Yeah, but let's not forget, let's give Elon some leeway and come some slack. You know, I've been very critical of Tesla in the past, and I'll just say it. You don't know why he sold, and the speculation is...
Yeah, we do know why he sold. What do you mean we don't know why? He literally sold $3.6 billion, which is as much debt.
He's probably forced to, because he probably had a
So what do you mean we don't know why he sold? That's why he sold.
The margin
he did not say it, did he?
I mean, it's not confirmed, but if you look at the
Exactly.
amount of equity loan on Twitter, it's literally
Okay,
3.5
but
billion. He sold 3.8 billion.
It's logical, but it's still speculation.
What else would he do with the money? I guess is my question.
I'm
What
just
does he need
saying,
3.8 billion for?
unless he says it, it's speculation. But he probably got forced into that sale, so I wouldn't read too much into it. Now, if he's allocating his time the way shareholders want, it's a different story. But Noto's all in on SoFi. He's not doing other things, and that's from being an executor and being a leader and being somebody that's going to be the driving force behind the company on an operations side. It's what you want to say.
I'm kind of curious to learn how much of Twitter Noto still owns, or if he cashed out completely. Because, I think that would also be interesting as well, because he had such a huge chunk of Twitter. And, I think from a public portfolio perspective, it's like 90-something% SoFi.
You should get Greta to tweet him and ask. Maybe he'll respond.
Yeah, I mean, she knows, or he knows what buttons to push. But also interesting, the second thing would be to see if it signals us to any other upcoming buys that are coming. Because if he cashed out completely, that's a ton of money that he can funnel into SoFi.
Buy now, pay later.
I don't really know much about the buy now, pay later space. So to me, it changes nothing.
You seem hesitant. You seem negative towards it.
Because I know a lot of people are interested in and think it's going to be some really big thing. It's not part of the suite of products that I'm really focused on. But anything that will make the membership happy and provide additional value to them, I am all for it.
What was weird whenever they actually released their article was the limitations on what you can actually use with their buy now, pay later product. It stopped at certain types of stores. Like, I don't think you can go to a coffee shop, no matter how much you spend, and use buy now, pay later, between $50 to $500, which is such a weird range considering like big purchases for me that I think are very common are stuff like smartphones and stuff that doesn't even really fit into, which I kind of find is weird. Like, even if it was 50 to 1,000, I'd find so many more use cases for this. But 500 is just in this weird sort of space.
There's a cap on it?
Yeah, 500.
Doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose when you do buy now, pay later for like a computer or equipment for a studio or something like that?
Yep.
I wonder if that's a part of the early release, because they're going to be expanding this in phases. So, I mean, I think no grocery stores, no restaurants, bars, gas stations, like all of these restrictions, and also the money aspect of it, like that could just be them offering like really small loans to start with and then expanding out as they see fit.
That could be like any other credit relationship with some sort of new business, right? They've never released this. This is a MasterCard created business that they're offering to select providers. Galileo and SoFi were one of the first people to actually offer this and actually end up putting it out. So who knows? We might have no data on this market. I mean, we can look at Affirm and we can look at all these things, but it is a different product. It's not quite the same, relationship that we have with our consumers to what we have with the merchants. It's completely different. So I think they're starting very small because it is zero APY. It's like we're taking all the risk with very little reward, all to start with. Might as well put it in this very small space.
Is there a limit on credit score?
They didn't have in their article here, their blog post, when they announced it, they didn't have a hard number on the credit score. They mentioned that a soft credit check was going to be one of the things that they check, as well as high threshold risk requirements and maintaining a qualifying direct deposit to SoFi checking and savings accounts. Those are the eligibility requirements.
Okay, so at least it's for direct deposit customers.
Right. Yeah, it's 4 payments. You make the first payment right up front, and then you're on the hook for the other 3 every 2 weeks. So it's a 6-week payback. And honestly, I think for the consumer, this is an amazing product. Once they open up the limits a little bit more, it's a 0% interest rate that they're offering you. You might as well take it and keep the 2% or the 3.5% interest in your savings account before that payment comes out. It will be used by a lot of users. I think people will absolutely use this and use it very, very quickly.
From that aspect, they could be looking at this as a way to grow deposits and really hook into that business.
I've had some pushback on this topic because maybe people think that it will be taken a different way. I mean, you'll have to see Bender 9000 or Chris Hager to actually see their opinions on this. If anyone's seen the articles, what they had predicted is that we'll probably be making on an annual rate of around 17% on the money that we lend out and buy now, pay later because of the transaction fees. I don't understand annualizing it out if someone could just use a loan for 6 weeks and then stop.
I don't know enough about it. I think we need 6 months of data to even try to extrapolate what it's going to be in the future.
Right. 17% sounds really high to me. Is that just
really high?
MasterCard on average will take around 3% of the total transaction value of the payment. And then they assume that 2/3 of that will go to Galileo and the banks, right? So SoFi will receive 66% of that, third of that will go to MasterCard. And then so if you're doing that every 6 weeks, your 2% out of the 3 over the amount of times annualized will be 17.33%.
Well, like you
But
said, that's assuming
that
that
everyone's
somebody's
reading
going to
that.
roll it over. How many things are you buying every 6 weeks that you're going to do that with?
Apparently, the chat just told me that Robinhood is offering 4%.
SoFi raised it to 3.5 as well, by the way.
Yeah, I saw, and I just looked at my phone and I saw my Robinhood's now 4%. So how do we feel about SoFi getting up to 3.5? Do we feel good about this? Do we feel like they're doing a little bit too much? Can
Isn't
they afford
it
this?
the exact same argument? Robinhood minus fee versus SoFi.
Yeah, it's the same ratio. They went up 0.25, we went up 0.25. It's the same conversation, really. I mean, they have a fee, we don't. I don't think it matters. I think at this point, it's just one big interest rate race. Once someone switches over to direct deposit, are they really going to every Fed meeting? They're going to change to who's the highest with their direct. Like, I don't know. It just seems so silly.
Yeah, and then just to circle back to the original conversation around the high APY in general for savings, is they're just raising more money, and the more money that they raise, the more money that they can use to make more profits, right?
You want to get into the Galileo stuff?
Yeah, so Galileo and Technisys, that is their sort of AWS of fintech play. They are redefining the digital banking customer experience with Cyberbank digital as a service.
We already covered this, right? This is just a reissuing of a PR thing that they're doing. This is the same product. There's nothing new. The CFO, Chris Lapointe, just said that they're in huge talks with consumer platforms, Shopify or something like this, or maybe not that big, but maybe larger consumer platforms. They even said large institutions, some of the big top 10 guys. So if we get even one of those clients, that would double the market cap of the current clients that we already have. We don't need a new product. We just need one of these clients to take us on with a world first product. The problem with it being a B2B product is that we just don't hear much about it until the contracts are already signed.
I think it's going to take 3 years or longer to really recognize the synergies and the benefits from it. You need Galileo to cross-sell this. You need Technisys to get some regional banks, thrift banks, and maybe some larger banks onto the Cyberbank platform. There is such a huge runway for opportunity in this. And you got to remember the huge synergy between these two companies. And it's going to take some time to really see this ramp up, but the opportunity is huge.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that it's going to take some time before it recognizes into tremendous amounts of revenue. But I think the time before that ball gets rolling is much shorter. I mean, I think Anthony Noto in the City FinTech conference around the same time when this was released, he was already saying that we have a couple of legacy banks that we're in advanced talks with to provide these back-end services for. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, with the implication that in 23, we'd be seeing some big legacy players leveraging Galileo. And so, having one legacy bank on Galileo is not like a total game changer for SoFi from a revenue perspective, but from the narrative, that really starts the ball rolling from that whole like AWS of fintech aspect.
The only thing I don't like about that is if you find a product that's brand new and you can say why the features are different than the competitors, that's real, But name me a CEO that says we're not going to take over the world. You know what I mean? Like they all say their product is going to revolutionize everything. Until we start seeing the papers get signed, I mean, it's just a statement.
Would we stay shareholders if Noto resigned?
I was just about to bring that up. I agree.
I think it depends why he resigns and who replaces him and what that vision is. I think that obviously the operation is flowing right now. SoFi is growing very rapidly, but that underlying vision is a very important aspect of that long-term bull case. And that vision is perpetrated further by Noto. And so if there's, some sudden resignation or something that happens that might change that bull case, that's going to affect the answer. And depending on who replaces him, that's also going to affect the answer. Basically, that vision is going to change. And as a result of that, the bull case is going to change.
I think Anthony Noto is a massive driving force for SoFi. And I think a big part of my investing strategy is, follow the leader sort of thing. Like I love a very strong founder, especially if it's a founder rather than a CEO. But in this case, it's a CEO. It's one of those fake sort of things. Like he would have to literally pass away for him to be out of this company rather than leave. I mean, he just bought 5 million. He's not leaving tomorrow.
If he did, say he
Yeah,
walked away, would you stay a shareholder?
Yes, it would be a case of the growth numbers. If it continues to grow through that time, I definitely wouldn't add between that quarter and the next. That's for sure. But I mean, I think SoFi's gotten to a point where it's going to start leading itself, I think. And same thing with Tesla. I think if Elon leaves, I think Tesla's gotten to a point where I don't even know if we need him.
So, Steven, what's your answer?
Continue-
If Noto quit, would you like where do you stand on that?
I would not sell my shares because I think the groundwork has already been laid in place. All the components are there, and it would depend who takes over. If the investment case changes, I would want to stay in for a couple of quarters. Noto is definitely a reason why I invested, but I also think SoFi is the future of banking. And for me, regardless of who is at the helm, if the end game strategy doesn't change, I still don't see people that are 12 to 18 going to traditional banks in a couple of years the way that we did. I don't see it. And it all comes back to that demographic. I don't see them going to a JP Morgan Chase or a Bank of America. You have 14-year-olds that know life as instant gratification. They have never experienced not having a cell phone glued to their hand or a tablet glued to their hands. I just think the chances of them using a traditional bank is a lot lower than us.
I think the big players right now for at least the future of investing is obviously Cash App. I think they're by far number one, and I think they'll continue to be. And then also Robinhood, I think, has that same sort of big grasp on retail traders. And then SoFi is also in that mix as well.
I think that's us. This is a great pod.
Great pod.
Imagine we did this drunk once.
I'm feeling like Riley is the glue to all of this because
What night are we doing
we sat here and watched an entire video.
It was a good video. It was 5 minutes. It wasn't that bad.
I want to know
Thank
what
you,
night
thank
we're
you.
doing Tesla.
Yeah, I'd be down for that.
We should have a Christmas special. Is Tesla overvalued? Christmas special.
I
Some
love
people would
it.
tune into that one. We should do it on
2.5
Christmas. You guys, I
hour
don't know if you're free on
podcast.
Christmas.
Get
Not
ready.
kidding. Not on Christmas.
What are you doing better that's on Christmas?
I gotta what?
Like, what do you guys really do on Christmas, bro? Like no one really does anything on Christmas, bro.
All right. Any last words before we tune out? Steven, I apologize in advance for how much of a shit show this pod was.
It's okay. There wasn't
Yeah.
that much SoFi news. We had to fill the time.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, we need to see a couple more quarters, and don't be surprised if SoFi goes down further. Don't be surprised if the market goes down further. This is not an overnight play, and you shouldn't be investing if you don't have a long-term outlook unless you are a strict trader. And I think everybody needs to be true to why they're investing. For me, this is a long-term play. I believe in the company and I believe what they're going to accomplish, but I could be wrong.
Chris is asking
Yeah.
to look up Cameron Dawson. I'm gonna do it real
All right,
quick.
that was a
No.
perfect.
Your own time, man.
That
That was
Do
a
that
perfect
on your own time.
ending.
Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.
See you next week.
Okay.
You guys